My name is Dave Taylor. I'm a naturalist and wildlife photographer. When I'm outdoors, I'm often in awe of the power of nature. Yellowstone Falls is an example of what I mean. The falls have carved out a magnificent valley. Known as the Valley of the Yellowstone River, it draws tourists from around the world. They stand and wonder at the forces that created this magnificent sight. Water is a force to be reckoned with in nature. We see its effects everywhere, from small falls like this one in Ontario, to perhaps the most famous waterfall in the world, Niagara Falls. Near where I live in Mississauga, there is a river called the Credit. Its valley is wide and broad, carved out by water. But the greatest example of water's work has got to be the Grand Canyon, over 1.5 kilometers deep and several kilometers wide and hundreds of kilometers long. It can be seen from outer space. Wind is another force that erodes the land and changes it. These badlands were carved out as the wind carried away the sand and the soil. These strange-looking structures are hoodoos. You can see them along the Bow River in Banff National Park in Alberta. They were carved for the most part by the action of wind and rain. But there are other forces at work here too. The freezing and thawing that takes place over the seasons also helps to break down rocks. This boulder, the size of a bus, is a glacial erratic. It was carried miles away from the mountains by glaciers. Glaciers are literally rivers of ice. They can be several kilometers thick and several hundred kilometers wide. They travel down valleys, carving them out and moving tons of rocks and sand and material. Glaciers, too, like wind and water, are a force of nature. Ice and wind. The action of water, whether it be ocean waves or rivers flowing or waterfalls. These are forces we can understand. There are other forces at work here too. Forces that we can't see, forces that take place underground over long periods of time. One of the best places to see these forces and the work they created is in Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. Called geysers, these are spectacular fountains of hot water forced into the air by heating far below the surface. The water is literally boiling. These unseen forces that may take place over thousands, if not millions of years, change the very planet we live on. Imagine the force required not only to push up a mountain, but to literally bend the layers. How much force then would it take to build a mountain range that runs the length of a continent for thousands of kilometers? These rocks were once at the top of a mountain. A landslide brought them crashing down onto a small town. Landslides are caused by a number of factors: too much water, too much snow, an earthquake. The results are usually devastating and terrible to see. There is another force that as a naturalist and a wildlife photographer I'm aware of, and that's the force that our species brings to the land. We can build a road just about anywhere we want through the thickest forests and across the top of mountains. We can clear an entire forest to make a farmer's field for pasture and for crops. We can build entire cities where millions and millions of people live. We can dam the rivers and stop the flow of water and generate power. We can try and control the flow of rivers and streams and lakes. We can mine the mountains for its gold and its silver. But in the end, when we leave, have we helped the environment or have we hurt it? Most Ontarians live in towns and cities. We must remember that we have a responsibility not only to the world that we live in, but the world that surrounds us. We must learn to conserve and work with nature to keep our whole planet healthy.